Hey, welcome Stacey to the show. I'm super thrilled to have you here. I know it's been a long time coming, but we finally made this happen. How about we just get started with, you just jumping right in, giving me a quick overview of your background. Like, tell me more about you. How did you get here? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. I'm originally from Australia. I'm half English, half Australian. I spent most of my upbringing growing up in Asia,
Oh, wow.
mostly Japan. And then I started modeling and moved to London and just spent a lot of time traveling internationally for work. And, that way I started going out a lot and getting familiar with the nightlife landscape and started doing some events and things a little bit in London, dabbling when I was younger. And then when I was about 23-ish, I think I moved to New York, and then I got super involved. I started hosting a lot of events, working with a lot of like PR branding. Then I started jamming bars, and then I jammed a group and just kind of tried to combine everything together and make
Wow.
it one kind of cohesive path, if you will.
Yeah.
And I moved to LA 2.5, 3 years ago. I started out working with 10-5 here,
Okay.
but also doing a lot of events, doing a lot of like stuff for, say, like LA Fashion Week and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then I eventually landed with Relevant Group with Mars, which we launched in January, which is our current project.
Wow, congrats on that. I mean, it
Thanks.
sounds like, you've explored nightlife globally. You have like a really like global perspective on how things work, and I think that's really fascinating. Um well, welcome to LA. LA is amazing. But can you tell me a little bit more about Relevant Group? Is Mars a part of that? Is that like a hospitality group? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Relevant Group currently has Mother Wolf, which is a very popular restaurant I'm sure you've heard of.
Yeah.
Citizen News, which is a event space, and Citizen News Events is also just our overarching events group. And then we have Mars, and we're launching a new venue in a few weeks called Brownstone, which I
Wow.
can't talk much about, but it's
Okay.
super exciting. It's a gorgeous space. Yeah, before they were involved also with like the Tommy and the Thompson, Barley's, Desert Five,
Yeah.
but there was a legal dispute. It's still ongoing. So the group 10-5 and Relevant separated. So
Okay.
it's like, half and half in the divorce, if you will.
Ah, I see what I mean. Okay, great. So, from what I understand, the relevant group is a hospitality group, and you have your own properties that you guys own and operate. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Oh,
it.
oh, wow. Okay, that's really interesting. I recently checked out Mars for the first time. I believe it was like last weekend. To be honest, to prepare for this interview, and oh my god, it was so awesome in there. I was thrilled. It was just so cool. Um,
Love to hear it.
yeah. So, can you explain to me like a little bit more about your role with Mars? What do you do for them?
So my title is guest experience manager,
Yeah.
which is a little vague sounding, but I think that's the point. I was entirely on site before. Now my role is a little more hybrid and remote, but it's kind of fusion between like event scene, PR stuff,
Yeah.
an AGM, and a major D. And then I just took on being the social media director for both Citizen News and Mars. So
Wow.
I do a lot of different things.
Wow. Yeah. No, I can only imagine you got your hands in pretty much everything at this point. Um, I really like that. So behind the marketing, the social marketing, that's your handwork.
Yeah, I mean, we also have an amazing PR working with us, Stephanie Gotch, who's from SG, Partners and Associates Agency, and
Okay.
she is doing a lot of amazing stuff. We have an amazing marketing director, and we all kind of just work together on it.
Oh wow. Okay. That's I love that. So, you guys, the marketing so far, I'm a huge fan. I've been, I follow you guys on socials, and what you guys are doing. I think the aesthetic, the theme, I really kind of get the essence of the Mars brand. Uh, Even when I show up to the space, it feels very cohesive across the board. So, good job on that. It's amazing. Let's talk a little bit more about Mars Hollywood. By the way, I know it's super brand new, and it's already becoming like one of the busiest hotspots in LA. Like in a city where there's just so much going on, a lot of cool hot things happening. Like, what's your strategy for pulling in new audiences and staying on top?
I think it's really important to firstly recognize your crowd, but also diversify. You need to be able to appeal to all kinds of different crowds because if you just appeal to one crowd, they're not going to come in every single night.
Yeah.
That's not going to serve you. And you need to kind of stay relevant to what's happening and the trends. And I think it's really important to like keep up with that, because you don't want to be pitching the same stuff people have been doing for 10 years. It's boring.
Mm.
So I think it's all about, being inventive and just trying things out, seeing what sticks and running with it.
I love that you said that. Being able to understand market trends, understanding what consumers are into today, and being able to meet them where they're at, and also being able to have a variety of different, you know, marketing messaging that's going to resonate with different audiences. So you're getting like a variety of different groups coming in, and you're not like, you know, getting stale or having like the same activations and not pulling in new interests from new interest groups. So I really like that a lot. Can you talk to me a little bit more about what that looks like? Like, how are you guys doing that? Are you able to like share a little bit more tactics on what's been your approach so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like consistently for venues that are maybe smaller and, have a decent operational cost, you need to kind of have a bit of a system of like plugging to like the cool young crowd versus getting, table sales and finding that balance. And having different targeted nights I find works really well. Say like Thursdays right now we have a very young Gen Z crowd that is just keeping it like cool and relevant.
Yeah,
But then Saturdays we have like an older crowd that's very like nightlife focused. We have an amazing person from Delilah working with us on that, and
yeah.
we get a lot of table sales from that like funds things. And it's like these two audiences would not be in a room together, but we can transform the space and make it adaptable for both these groups. And I think once you kind of program for a consistent, day where it's
Yeah.
like they know what they're getting if they show up on a Thursday, they know what they're getting if they show up on a Saturday. And I think targeting the older crowds on the weekend is more important because, people have day jobs, people have families, and,
Mm,
the kids, they'll go out on a Tuesday. They don't care.
yeah.
So I think it's just, knowing your audience and like really trying to make sure they can rely on a service consistently.
Right, right, right. No, that's spot on. Uh, I am curious though, because you mentioned Gen Z's coming in on a Thursday night. Are you seeing like the industry wide changes in the way consumers consume alcohol affecting you? Statistically, we're seeing especially with Gen Z, they're consuming less alcohol, buying less bottle service. Are you seeing that, and how is that impacting your business?
Absolutely. I think all over it has impacted everybody.
Yeah.
They just aren't spending the way, millennials or Gen X were spending. And again, I think it's the thing you've got to adapt to. I think with Gen Z, you got to focus more on the programming, like they're showing up for the music. Non-alcoholic cocktails are also really great. When they do
Oh,
drink, we find they drink a lot more beer. So when we have like a young night, we're going to make sure we stock more beer than anything else. And I think it's really important to still include them in the going out experience because you don't really know where it's going or the lifestyle changes. And,
yeah,
some of the kids do spend money, and it's
yeah.
just all about having that ability to cater to everyone.
Wow. Okay, so beer is cool again. Is that what you're saying?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Shout out to the beer consumption out there. I love that a lot. I completely missed the grand opening. In fact, Stacey, I blame you for that. You didn't really invite me, so I missed
My
it.
apologies.
Hello. You know what I'm saying? But all good, all good. I heard a lot of great things about it. I mean, were you even there or did you go?
So we had two openings. I'm not sure which you're referring to. We had our
Oh, there
soft
were two.
opening on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
We had Miles Hendrick DJing, and that was really great. We had like Stassi show up. We had the Claremont Twins. We had Maggie Lindemann. Like
Oh,
it
nice.
was like a pretty great event. And then we had our grand opening where Alex Brown DJ'd. That was a few weeks later.
Oh, nice.
It was just it was great. I was just running around like a headless chicken all night.
Oh, no.
But it was great. We had a great time. But the soft opening was our first night, and we not had trial service or anything, so it was pretty chaotic on our end. Even though the service went well and everything was great, and we did great sales, but
Yeah.
it was just a bit of an experiment. So the actual grand opening, we felt much more put together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. And but that's the whole purpose, right? You want to have like a soft opening just to kind of test the waters a little bit,
Hmm.
and then you kind of get your ducks in the row, and then you hit them again with a hard opening. Um, and it sounds like you guys blew that out of the water, which is really impressive. Um, so congrats on that.
Thank
Really,
you.
I think Mars is phenomenal. So like for just our listeners, right? Can you describe the vibe of Mars in 3 words?
Oh, I think intimate, inviting, and chic.
That's a perfect description actually, because that's the vibe I felt when I walked in for the first time. It was just like very intimate, it felt cozy, but still very chic, very inviting. Everybody was cool and friendly. I had a really good time. So I think that's a really great way to describe it for sure. Um, so like what would you say is or so far, I know it's still pretty new for you. What would you say is the most memorable event you've had to oversee at Mars
Oh,
so far?
gosh, I think there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, the gosh, there's so many things. I think well, just in the past couple weeks,
Yeah.
two of my highlights were we did a photo shoot with Eli Roth in the space,
Oh,
and I got to oversee that, and that was a really cool experience. Most of the team flew in from Milan and brought all these beautiful vintage Italian film posters, and it was gorgeous. And also on our Saturday night, Ty Dolla Sign just popped up randomly
nice.
and jumped on the decks and played a bunch of his music, and
Uh-huh.
that was super fun as well.
Nice. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Okay, so Mars is a complete vibe. That's not even a secret at this point. It's gonna be here to stay. I already know it's gonna be one of those top LA hotspots. It already is. So, like, I mean, I've been on your website, Mars's website, and it seems like you guys also offer some sort of membership program.
Yes.
Can you talk to me more about that?
Yeah, so basically, we charge an annual fee, and half of that goes towards liquor that we have in stock. And you get a personalized locker with like an engraved nameplate, and you get to keep all the liquor in your locker. And when you come in, we can just like serve whatever you have in there. We also have a spirit sourcing program. So if there's something really crazy or hard to find that you want, we can get our hands on it for you. And then you get priority access to tables and like a 20% discount on everything, and we're going to start rolling out for the summer members only events. And then you also get like priority access to connection with anything else we're running. So right now we have some great, like our first members were Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so we've got a few members now. We're just slowly filling out, but we only have bit around 60 lockers, so we're somewhat limited, so we have to be a little selective with who we pick.
Okay, so it's very limited. So you guys are making it exclusive,
Yeah,
and
we do background check everyone to a degree and see if they fit. But we like also if we just like people, think they fit the vibe or are cool, we're definitely gonna let them in. You don't need to be Jay-Z or Beyonce.
Yeah, because they really set the bar really high. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh wow,
But I
okay,
personally oversee all the membership requests, so
oh
it's
okay.
at my discretion.
I'm like, I need a membership. Do you think you could squeeze two more in, Stacey? You got me right.
I know a plug.
Yeah. I like that a lot. So, okay, that's really innovative. I like that. So, you're telling me I pay a month annual fee,
Mhm.
and what I bring my own bottle, and you guys store it in my locker? Is that how it
No,
works?
well, you half of your membership fee goes towards stocking it with whatever liquor you want that we have in stock.
Gotcha. And every time I come, I'm just really kind of pulling from that locker.
Yeah, you
And
can also buy new things or whatever you want. So, say, you go out and you get bottle service somewhere and you drink half the bottle, or people want different liquors and it becomes expensive or like a waste. And this way, you don't waste anything and you can kind of cater to all your guests. It's a really good way, say, to like entertain like work people, or, when you're doing a big party, it makes it a lot easier. And it's really good if you're, a bit of an aficionado of like, say, you're a big Scotch fan, it works well.
wow. Okay. Okay. So, I imagine I imagine that offer is very attractive, and it's also a really big revenue stream for you as well. Is that a strategy that you guys are employing to kind of offset the reduced alcohol consumption with Gen Z? Is that a way for you guys to like balance that out?
I feel like just in general, it like helps with all costs on our end. But as we're not trying to just take anyone in, so it doesn't really. It's like staggered revenue. It's not like a huge percentage of our income.
Right. Okay. Got it. It's really so. Would you say that's more of a brand play, just to kind of elevate that brand experience for customers? Is that really the purpose of that?
I think it's just we wanted to do something a little different, and
Yeah.
our owner Giancarlo just thought this would be a fun way to experiment. We were also really set on, we talked about this a lot. We love like, the New York cozy lounge vibe that we
Mm,
really don't find present here, where, you want to go out and kind of like have a vibe, but you're not trying to like go to a club. But you want something a little more than just a flat cocktail bar.
mm.
And, it's hard to find that here at all. We wanted to create that. We think of places like the
Yeah.
Mulberry in New York or the Nines. And we kind of wanted that experience. And we thought just adding the membership thing would add that kind of like sexy luxe experience.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Honestly, I think Mars fitting right in the middle perfectly, and you guys are doing it so well. I kind of got that's what I felt like when I went there. Um, I want to look into that membership more. I definitely want to know how I could get my hands on it. It sounds like something I would totally have. Um, I like that a lot. Okay, so the membership program checks out. It's awesome. I'm definitely going to try that out myself. Um, okay, so kind of to segue a little bit on like brand partnership side of things. Um, I imagine you guys host several branded activations there. Can you talk to me a little bit more about you know what would you say is your signature element that a brand could expect? What's that aha moment that would make a big brand choose Mars to do an activation?
I think there's two key things for us. I think a lot of places that want that cozy, intimate thing, it's hard to find a balance in event spaces. It's like a huge warehouse, or it's, like a little bar, but our lounge is such a specific size. And we
Yeah.
have, we're right next to, Mother Wolf and the private dining rooms there. So you can kind of just shift in between the spaces. So if you want that kind of more like 100 people space, we cater really well to that, where a lot of venues in the area don't. And we're still very central. We're right by, great restaurants. It's very convenient. And
Yeah.
secondly, when you do something with Mars, you're tapping into all of Relevant Group's resources, all our event planning, all our like, you want to get it catered, you get it catered by Mother Wolf. You get access to so much more than just Mars.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I like that. So it's pretty much like, when the deal comes through, it's all like all hands on deck. They're getting
Mhm.
like that support, that customer support. They're getting that expertise that your team provides, and really kind of walking them through that entire experience. So, almost like giving them that full white glove service, if you will. That sounds really cool, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong about this though. Relevant Group, they're fairly new in LA as well, right? I feel like that's not. I haven't heard too much about them up until very recently.
They've been around for a few years, but most of the people that they have employed, at managerial levels or, anything, have been in the industry for a decade plus. Like everyone I work with is an industry veteran, and we all know each other from other spaces. The
Yeah.
GM and I work very closely together, and he and I have worked around each other for years.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so it's backed by like a seasoned team of of experts that know what they're doing.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that a lot. I love that a lot. I mean, honestly, just from my first look at Mars, I'm like, okay, this team, they know exactly what they're doing. So I love that a lot. Okay, so if all right, what would you say, or like, I imagine, there's a difference between a high end client or a celebrity like Jay-Z and Beyonce. There's a different type of experience that you would deliver for those big celebrities than you would, if I'm just like a brand that have deep pockets, and I just want to buy the space. Like, is there like a different protocol when it comes to the way you deliver those services to a celebrity versus a brand? Can you talk to me about
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
I think the key difference with celebrities versus brands is discretion and, like publicity. So the point of having a brand event is to get word out there, to have everyone involved. We're going to put it on social media. We're going to invite people if they want,
Yeah.
so you're trying to like really pitch each other out and, really try and hit their like whatever they need on the marketing end, on the ROIs,
Yeah.
that's what you got to keep in mind versus celebrities. They need a lot of discretion. And I know like our group is very well known for being very discreet with the celebrities that we have on campus. And that's why we have so many come by all the time. We really just try and we have like policies about how to treat them and talk to them and not invade their space, and the majority of them are very polite and kind and wonderful. And I think it's just really, I think it's really important, like anyone who lives in LA, people still want to be able to go out to dinner and go have a drink and
Mhm.
not be bothered, and
Yeah.
it's not fair to not be able to have that existence. So when we have these relationships with them and they have special requests, we try to be as accommodating as possible.
Yeah. That's really good, because to your point, sometimes people just want to have fun and not really, have like the paparazzi following them around. They just want to go out, have a good time, vibe with the homies, just like everyone else would.
Yeah.
So providing a space for celebrities to do that, honestly, I think, I mean, not just celebrities, sometimes, just everyday people, we just want privacy. Sometimes we just want to be able to get out there, let loose, have a good time, and go home, and I think that's really important. However, on the brand side, I know that definitely comes with different expectations, right? you know um they're going to have different metrics, different KPIs that they want to hit. you know
Mhm.
uh sometimes they might want to prioritize brand, they might want to prioritize a sales lift. um I could only imagine, some of those expectations could be a little bit um more heavyweight to carry. So how do you approach it when you have to meet these like really stressful, brand expectations at the same time you want to deliver the ultimate experience for the guest and overall experience. How do you balance all of that?
I think kind of depends on the client we're working with. I think the more difficult clients are on either end of the spectrum of having no understanding of business and just being like, we want to do this creative thing, like make it work. And we're like, okay, but we need to deal with like budgets and, paying our staff and, figuring out like details. And that can be a little frustrating. We have a brand we're trying to work with right now who they're great. Their parties are great, but they kind of showed up and want like buyouts and can't figure out dates and don't have funding and are trying to get us to figure that end of things out. And it's a little hard, but you just have to have patience with them and explain to them and try and like assist where you can. But if you can't meet in the middle in the end, it is what it is. But on the other side, people are really business driven
Yeah.
and kind of forget about the experience of the guest and making like a cool evening or event for the guest. It can be a little difficult too, where it's all like money and investment. It's you
Yeah.
got to strike a balance, and I think the key to that is being able to compromise and being flexible, and just remembering at the end of the day that it is a business, and not to get too like full on about anything going awry. Just try and deal with things as they come.
Okay, I love that. I mean, you're spot on with that. Really, kind of finding that like silver lining on both, business, but at the same time creative and kind of mirror. It's almost like a marriage. You want to marry those two together and bring
Yeah,
it all together. Um, I've seen in the past where that gets really tricky. So I can only imagine how stressful and daunting that could be. Um, you know, and on your end, right, on the venues end, I could only imagine, you're dealing with internal things that you have to deal with, like how much staff is going to be required to execute a specific idea or vision,
yeah,
um, and what type of resources that you have available to allocate. Because without those resources, you're going to be understaffed, right?
yeah,
And if the brand or the client they want to do this big grandiose idea, you also have to make sure that you know it meets your expectations internally on the venue side, right? That you guys could actually deliver what the client wants,
yeah.
and it makes sense for everyone involved. Uh, and it sounds like you guys have a lot of experience having to balance that out. So that's really impressive. So, like, what would you say are some of the most common deliverables that you often hear from a brand?
Um, there's so many things. I feel like sometimes people on social media posting, but not very often.
Yeah,
I mean, we're new, so we don't have the biggest social media presence yet. But I think a lot of the time people want to be able to see like really like brand awareness
yeah,
being hit and VIP guests, whether they're inviting them, they really want them taken care of, or sometimes they want us to, assist in that. Um, a lot of the time it's about liquor partnerships and getting funding that way and just making sure their special guests are taken care of. We get a lot of people who want to control the door and the list, and that all depends on the type of partnership we have. So we have to negotiate. But I think what is key in all these things is being really direct in the way you communicate, like your needs and what you can and can't deliver. If anyone is being like unsure or over promising, that's where problems arise. And if you're really
mm,
like, these are the minimum costs we need to hit no matter what, and these are hard no's from us, these things we can absolutely make work. And sometimes there are things that are a bit unconventional that you just sort of like make happen. You're like, okay, we'll just figure it out.
yeah.
But generally it's just a back and forth and a meeting in the middle, but the communication is always key.
Mm, Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I feel like being able to be on the same page, right? Understanding that, hey, you guys may want this thing, but you need to be crystal clear about it, and being able to communicate that message across so that way you can internalize it and prepare for it. I think that's really essential, honestly. Uh, okay, so like I'm sure you've done like a bunch of those events, and you've done a bunch of branded events. Like, what would you say are like three non-negotiable elements needed to pull off a successful event?
I think firstly, having an amazing staff, an amazing team. If your staff aren't up to scratch, nothing will go right. And we were very particular with who we hired, and all our staff are really, really wonderful and have different strengths. But that's what a venue is built on. If we didn't have an amazing team, we wouldn't have what we have. That's always most important thing. I think having a good service and product. Obviously, we created this space. We built the whole space out in 3 months, and
Wow.
we all work very hard on it. We're all pitching, going outside of our roles to continue just the momentum that we've gotten and working hard. And I think that's super important. Um, and I think, yeah, just really like communication, as I said
Yeah.
again, it's so vital. If there's any mishaps, are always a break in communication. And I think it's so important to be able to have set boundaries, but like kindly. I think sometimes, if you don't want to, people don't understand sometimes on the brand end about
Yeah.
our realities, and they're not trying to be aggressive or, disrespect you. You just need to kindly explain to them what you need on your end.
Ah, I like how you emphasize team. Can you talk to me a little more about that? Like, what's a core team? Like, what's needed on a core team to do what you do?
So we have a GM. Our
Okay.
GM Ethan is amazing. We have our bar lead and our bartenders. We currently aren't operating with a bar back because we're just starting up, and it's not needed yet. But once it's picked up a little more during the summer, we will be getting a bar back.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like the host team is always pretty vital. You need someone strong on the door, and security, especially head of security, super important. Our head
Yeah.
of security, Aman, is really experienced, and he saves the day so often. And then we have our TSAs, which are like our server assistants,
Yeah.
who do so much and work super hard. And then obviously we have our servers, and a bunch of gorgeous girls, and everyone. It's really hard working. And then, on the back end, obviously we have all of our events team, our marketing team,
Yeah.
our investors, our owners, and they're all very involved. They're there all the time. Everyone really cares, which is really nice to see.
I love that, honestly. And would you say like those are like essential hires to make any nightclub or nightlife venue be successful?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think most of those are non-negotiables, and in spaces that are, bigger, like nightclubs, you need, even more. You need
More.
AGMs, you need floor managers, you need multiple bar backs, you need a sound guy. Like,
Yeah, 100%. And it really baffles me when you talk to, people outside of the nightlife and hospitality space. You know, people are really oblivious to how much really goes into it, how much thought that goes into it, how much process and strategy that goes into creating something as awesome as Mars Hollywood. There's a lot that goes into it. So I really appreciate you kind of like breaking that down for the listeners to really kind of educate them and let them know that these are like real professionals. These are it does require a team of dedicated and specially skilled people to pull something like this off. Um,
absolutely.
so I love that a lot. So like, okay, um, you know, because when you're doing such a big event, a big brand activation, you got all of these parties involved, right? You got your side on the venue side, you got the guest that's gonna enjoy the experience, and then you have brands that might have all of these expectations in the middle. Um, Everyone wants something from you, right?
Mhm.
Um, how do you keep your head above water? How does that not stress you out? How do you stay level headed?
You know, it's really funny. I have had this conversation with our owner, Giancarlo, and our GM, Ethan, and we all have ADHD and OCD.
Oh
And
wow.
it's such a strange thing. I think it's such a specific trait to be able to work in a really scattered manner, but focusedly at the same time. It's like having a messy room, but knowing where everything is all the
Yeah.
time. And I think we all just kind of work best with that. And also, the attention to detail is like paramount. So, I think it just really attracts a certain type of person. And I feel like it feels like having like a dinner party with all of your extended family and you're dealing with like your 13-year-old angsty cousin and your 67-year-old out of touch like grandparent or parent or whatever, and
Yeah.
just trying to figure out every little moving part. But just overarchingly, I think it's just important to have a calm energy. You know, we're not doing brain surgery at the
Right.
end of the day.
Yeah.
We want to do our best, and if we're flustered and we're, you know, getting stressed out or angry, we're not giving our best. So if you have a moment where you're feeling overwhelmed, you just take a breath and
Mhm.
just do the best you can.
That's all we could ever do. Just do our very best every single day. I think you said it so well right there. Um, you know, okay. So given all of that, everything you've just described for us, like what would be an ideal brand partnership for you? Like, do you have a picture in your mind on what that looks like?
I can think of one we did a few months ago with Platoon, and it was for the Women's Music Awards.
Oh,
We had a really cool group in. They did a buyout. You know, everyone was paid. Everyone there was very nice, and then so many people got to see the space curated, and we got a lot of further event bookings from people who were there. So we hosted a great event. We got press. We got continued business, and we
yeah.
had a great night, and everyone left with money in their pockets. That's ideal for everyone, I think.
Yeah, of course. That's like a win-win. Okay, you mentioned the term buyouts a few times during this conversation. Um,
Mhm.
for the listeners, can you kind of like elaborate a little bit more about what does that mean and how much we talking to do that?
So there's different ways of hosting events.
Yeah.
A buyout means you pay to rent out the space. And so it's only you and your guests. If you just want to rent it out for 10 people and just hang out, you can do that. Or you can throw a huge brand event. You can do whatever you want. You can redecorate. We can organize catering for you. We could do an open bar or a hosted bar by a brand, whatever you want. It's your space. Then we have like private events that are like not buyouts, but you know, it's like a hosted party we're doing in collaboration with someone, and it'll
Yeah.
be listed, but we also have some discretion on everything. And then there's like more open events where it's just like, say, our Saturday parties, it's like a curated party. We have like cool DJs and stuff going on, but it's
Yeah.
open to the public, you know, at our discretion at the door still, obviously, but it's not, you know, a closed off private thing. And we do different, it depends, because we'll do like bar splits or just pay for things, or,
Yeah.
you know, people, you know, have bar minimums for different things. It's just a different structure depending on who you're working with. We try and like work with people and figure things out as best we can to be flexible. And, you know, if it makes sense for us and we can cover our costs and we think it's cool, you know, we can totally be flexible. But for a buyout, it depends on the night, it depends on the hours, it depends on so many things, but you're looking at least 20K.
Okay. So 20K would get me like the whole space.
Yeah, it's at least 20K. It would depend.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's sounds really cool. Um, and you mentioned the other structures when you work with other people to kind of create like a night or some sort of experience. Um, like these, who are you working with for that? Like, what do you mean by that? How's that work?
So say we will do a night with we just had a night we did with Miles Hendrick.
Okay.
And you know, he had a flat rate, and you know, he invites people and curates, and you know, does the music, brings in other DJs, and you know, it gives us a big push on the door for attendees and guests. And we're working on something, say now, with Andre Power,
Oh, I
that's
know
coming
him.
up.
Yeah.
He's Great, love him. And, we're going to again, we have a flat rate, but it's all production costs on their end. They're bringing in a photographer, giving assets for us to post for social. Then we'll have other people coming in who say we have our regular Thursday party that is like curated by these really cool Gen Z girls. Audrey, I met her during LA Fashion Week. I was doing an event and I had her as my door person, and she was great. And I brought her on at Mars, and she started curating parties with
Okay.
two of her friends, and it's been really cute and fun. And, so we'll just give them like a certain bar percentage of the sales they make.
Oh
So
wow.
they promote and do everything. And if they hit different numbers, like they get more money. If that makes sense. And
Wow.
so those are the two. It's either sort of flat rate or what we call a bar split.
Okay. Oh wow. So just so I understand, you're working with these third parties to produce these events. So are any of these events that happen on a weekly basis done internally, or are you guys always working with third parties for all of them?
Well, we don't. We do a lot of promotion of stuff on our own, and I find a lot of events and bring them in. So does our PR Stephanie and our GM Ethan. And it kind of depends. We have nights that's not something like this too, but it's just, you want to diversify the programming. You want to keep fun, interesting things happening. That's how you get people in.
Yeah.
That's how you get cross promotion and press. And, I feel like when I find a bar I like that's new, I want to go there all the time, but I don't want to see the same stuff every single night. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this party sounds cool, that party sounds cool. Like, and it's all different things, and you can have different nights and different experiences there.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like, I love your approach to that. So, speaking of your approach with diversifying your programming, like, what other like techniques are you using to pull in those Gen Z audiences, and how are you doing it in a way without alienating like the older generations? How are you
So,
balancing that?
so as I mentioned before, we've been curating our Thursdays really to our Gen Z audience.
Yeah.
And I think having that specific night for them has been working really well, because they don't want to come out and be surrounded by people 20 years older than them as much as the people 20 years older don't want to be around them as much.
Yeah.
And so having that night specifically catered that we build on is key for us to just really like, bring in that crowd. They know they can go there. It's a consistent thing. Word of mouth and social media for them is everything. So
Um,
we just make sure like every time we're doing party flyers, we're on Partiful, we're sharing everything, we're tagging everything, we're
yeah.
getting photos, we're connecting with everyone. And it does feel a little like collegey high school in the way that's like, if all my friends are going and think it's cool, like I'm gonna go too. So it's
Hmm.
just we just kind of rely on like, I mean, the girls who host, they're all like gorgeous, lovely, cool
Yeah,
girls, like, and so they have cool friends, and everyone wants to go where all the cool girls are.
that's
So
true.
it just works.
That is very, very true. All right. So I love that. So, for example, you guys have like a Thursday night, and your audience, they know for a fact if I pull up on a Thursday, I know the vibe. It's going to be like this, it's going down like that. It's locked in. That's how you guys build on top of that, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. All right, just to kind of like wrap things up a little bit. I do have one more for you though, because I try to like really kind of talk to professionals in the space. I want to kind of get gauge where you see the future headed. Um, can you like where do you see the industry going or evolving into in the next couple of years? Especially with how things are changing. We got AI, and you got so many different venues opening and closing. Like, what's your thoughts about the current landscape of the industry, and where do you see it going?
I think it's been really hard all round for so many spaces, just there was a big boom coming out of COVID, and I
Yeah.
think everyone kind of expected that to continue, and it hasn't, and I think everyone is a bit surprised by how business has been, like every restaurant, bar, venue I know. And I think the most important thing is really building that community of reliable guests and customers who come back and like really want to spend time at your space and really treating them right. And I think the biggest shift I've seen over the past 10 years is the addition of social media to the space, because when
Mm.
I was going out when I was young, you could go get messy, do what you want, and there was no one taking photos,
Yeah.
no one taking videos. If you did something sloppy, no one knew about it. And now everything you're like you have the ability to be watched all the time. And I
Yeah.
think that's the culture these kids are coming from, where it's like they're always feeling like they're being seen no matter what they
Mm.
do. And I think they feel like they have to, behave a certain way, and they can't really relax and let loose like we used to when we were younger. And I think, social media is a great free promotion tool. It's you can just blow your stuff up and get a whole new audience. It's really egalitarian,
Yeah.
it makes so many people see the space on Instagram or wherever else, like TikTok, and we reach people who would never normally see it, and that's fantastic for everyone. But I think that is the drawback, is like people have this like kind of nervousness about getting too drunk in public, which is what you
Yeah.
do at a bar,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I think the industry has to adapt to this in some
Mm.
way. I think obviously you have to play into social media. It's essential. If you're
Yeah.
not doing that, you're missing out on incredible the best free advertising you can for no reason. I feel like people, you gotta adapt or die. And I
Yeah.
feel like anyone who's not adapting, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. And I think they have to adapt to how Gen Z parties. And if they don't want to adapt to this new customer base, everyone's going to age out and they're not going to have a customer base. So you just kind of
Yeah.
have to roll with it. And I don't per se know what that means. I know there are a lot of like non-alcoholic bars popping up. I feel like, as I said, catering, really like events based or like music based things
Mm.
is really important. But I think everyone has to figure out how to drive business in a way that is profitable, that's still it's all about the customer. They've got to cater to them.
Wow. 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 No, I love that a lot. I love how you touched on the effects of social media, how it's affecting the way people actually engage at these parties, right? They always feel like they're being watched. There's always a camera on. So, you know, they're moving a certain way. They're being more appropriate than they would have normally been. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a negative, right? It sounds like people aren't having fun the way we did back in the day. Like, is that what's going on?
I just feel like they have they grew up this way. We grew up, getting onto cell phones and computers when we were like 10 and over, and they grew up with all this media all the time. So I think it's just a different way of living. And I feel like I see a lot of Gen Z kids, having a lot of fun and doing their thing. It does seem like sometimes the way they have fun feels more performative. Like they
Uh,
have to, like, as I said, it's like, there's always a camera out or something. But they definitely have fun and enjoy themselves. It's just what I really like about the new generation is they have this kind of realness that we didn't used to have. They just earn their stuff and are like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And
oh,
our generation used to be like, had to be so damn cool all the time.
yeah. I remember the time where I used to walk around like no cameras, no, 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 no cameras. You know, now I'm like, yo, let me pose. Like, now we're trying to get more in the camera. And then back then, venues used to be so like cool about being exclusive, like don't no cameras allowed. But it's funny how that just completely reversed. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not the
Now,
culture at all anymore.
not at all. It's like you tell people not to pull out their phones, they're gonna be like, "Wait, what? Huh?"
Hmm.
So I think just watching that entire cultural shift happen over the past 5-10 years, it's been something to really watch. What I've been really paying attention to are the leaders in the space and watching how they adapt and how they continue to innovate and figure out how to continue to succeed in these like conditions that we're in today. So, my hats off to you, Stacey. I think you're doing amazing, phenomenal work.
Thank you.
The industry should know who you are if they don't know already. This is Stacey Grant, um, and she's phenomenal. And thanks again for sparing up some of your time for us to connect. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. It was great chatting.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Before you hop off really quickly, did you want to plug anything, give the audience anything that you might have coming up for 2024?
Yeah, obviously, come stop by Mars. We're located right in the back of Motherwolf, and follow Citizen News events. And we have our big opening brownstone coming up in a couple weeks. It's gonna be beautiful, so make sure to keep an eye on that.
All right, you guys heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Go check out Mars if you guys haven't already checked out Mars. It is right there, right off of, I believe, is it Selma and
Wilcox.
Wilcox?
Yeah.
Wilcox, right? Yeah, you can't miss it. It's amazing. I've been there myself. I love it. I'm definitely going back probably this weekend. So thanks again, Stacey. I really appreciate you.